Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the next entry into the Build subseries of the Gundam franchise, Gundam Build Divers. While I enjoyed both Gundam Build Fighters and Gundam Build Fighters Try, I can't deny that the general sentiment around Build Divers is a lot more negative. And that honestly makes me more interested to see why people feel this show is lower quality than its predecessors, especially when the sequel to this show, Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise, is often said to be much better. Gundam Build Fighters focused on the characters controlling their actual Gunpla models in spectacular fights, while Build Divers changes the dynamic to that of a VR MMO. You know, in the vein of Dot Hack or Shangri-La Frontier, adding elements from both video games and the isekai genre of anime.
Build Divers follows a group of young friends as they navigate the world of Gundam Battle Nexus Online. The show is aimed at a younger audience than most other Gundam shows, and I'd say an even younger audience than the other entries into the Build series. That's reflected by the middle school aged protagonists and the incredibly low stakes that the heroes face throughout about 90% of the series. While that isn't a bad thing by itself, Build Divers' main problem is that it just ends up being pretty boring most of the time. The show isn't awful, and it's not even my least favorite Gundam show, mostly because I think that the ending arc of Build Divers is actually pretty interesting. It's just that the journey to get there has all been seen before and in much more entertaining stories. Anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at 2018's Gundam Build Divers, and see if the story is salvageable, or if this one is best left in the shadow of its predecessors and much improved sequel.
Build Divers actually begins with a prologue episode that details an exhibition match between high-ranking GBN players. The episode isn't as long as a full-length TV anime episode, and you don't have to watch it if you don't want to, but the battle that they show is pretty cool, and it's an early introduction to quite a few characters. Our main character, a kid named Riku, watches this exhibition match from the stands and is totally blown away. He and his friend Yuki decide that they're going to play GBN more seriously because it just looked so awesome, and the thought even distracts Riku while doing other things in real life, like playing soccer with his other friend Momo. All Riku can think about is taking his Gunpla, the 00 Diver, and having a great battle like the one that he saw at the match.
As Riku and Yuki go on their first VR dive into GBN, they're blown away by the lifelike world of the online game. The world of GBN is pretty weird as it is very fantasy inspired. Riku's avatar has armor and a sword, and there's a bunch of fantasy races like elves and various styles of anthro characters, but the fantasy elements never really have much to do with the mobile suits. It is kind of funny that the first thing that happens is Riku and Yuki almost getting scammed by a shady dude, but don't worry, he's run off by McGee, a diver in the top 25 rankings, and the most flamboyant person in Gundam, and that's saying a lot. I mean, McGee is caked up, let's just say he must do a lot of squats in VR. McGee gives Riku and Yuki some advice as a veteran diver, and shows them how to run through a tutorial mission where they learn the strengths of their Gunpla setups. After killing some bots with the 00 Diver and GM Beammaster, the party receives an SOS signal from nearby and find a mysterious girl unconscious in the mountains. They bring her back down and wait until she wakes up, being followed by this shady fat kid the whole time. This bully is a guy named Doji, and he tricks Riku into changing his settings to free battle mode so that he can attack. He likes to go around and pick on new players, so he's basically a loser dickhead. McGee attempts to intervene in the battle, but the girl can apparently sense the feelings of Gunpla and says the 00 doesn't want to give in. Riku is then able to slash Doji's mobile suit in half with his beam saber and win the battle. McGee worries that the group of new players will hate GBN after their experience, but they actually love it and are totally addicted. I mean, yeah, they got to beat up an annoying bully with a giant robot. The girl from the mountains disappeared when the mission ended and did not return to the lobby with them, causing Riku to wonder if he will see her again, and setting up the main mystery hook of the early series.
The chubby bully Doji goes and complains to his brother that he got his ass beat. His brother is a diver known throughout GBN as Ogre, a battle freak with the mentality of a Dragon Ball Z character and the leader of a high-ranking force known as Hyaki. Ogre hunts down Riku and Yuki while they're out on a beginner quest collecting items. And when he sees that they're just beginners, he actually refuses to fight them and is mad at Doji, but then some guys who he had recently beaten in a team battle show up, and in the chaos, Riku is mistaken for one of Ogre's allies and he's drawn into the fight. Ogre beats two of the enemies, but their leader uses a special device called a brake decal to power up. Brake decals make up the majority of the conflict in the first half of Gundam Build Divers, as they're essentially just cheats or hacks. Beyond not being fair to non-cheating players, they also tend to cause major glitches in GBN and become quite the problem.
Riku and Ogre have to team up to destroy the brake decal user. This makes Ogre impressed with Riku's strength, which means that he then attacks Riku. I feel like I was downplaying it when I said he had the personality of a DBZ character. The guy's yelling about finding strong enemies and feeding on them constantly. It's kinda wild. Riku disregards Sarah's advice and uses the 00 Divers Trans Am mode, the powered-up state taken right from the 00 Gundam TV series, but his Gunpla can't handle the strain and shuts down, leaving Sarah to block Riku from taking a killing blow. Not that it would matter, I guess he would just respawn. After the fight, Riku apologizes to Sarah for not listening to her about the Gunpla's feelings and promises not to use Trans Am again until he has the strength to wield it. Episode 2 does a lot of work to introduce the systems and terms that GBN uses. If you've played an MMO before, it's all language that's very easy to pick up, i.e. forces are just guilds. It also builds Sarah's mystery up a bit more, as she just sorta shows up in the lobby again and can sense the feelings of Gunpla, and even though she presents as a diver in the game, she has no registered Gunpla.
The champion of GBN, Kyoya Kujo, is investigating the outbreak of cheaters that players have dubbed mass divers. The glitches and cheating are affecting the servers of GBN so much that even Kyoya's rival from the opening championship, the small weasel Captain Rommel, offers to help as well. When Riku and the others, now including his friend Momo, decide to take on another beginner mission called a serial battle, a mysterious diver in a mask who is totally not Kyoya approaches them and asks to come along. While the team fights through the various stages of the mission, he asks Riku why he always changes up his weapons after every skirmish. Riku says that he wants to be strong like the champion, but also after his battle with Ogre, he wants to try a bunch of different things and learn all that he can. Kyoya has advice to dole out to the novice divers even though he's supposed to be in disguise, but at the end of the mission, 3 cheating mass divers stand in their way instead of the expected mission boss.
Kyoya explains all about the cheaters and says that they often hack into others' missions near the end to steal the credit. The mass divers' glitches cause the Devil Gundam to break into the mission in a powered-up state. The cheaters are destroyed by it, but then Kyoya has to shed his disguise to defeat the powered-up boss with his big energy sword. Kyoya apologizes to the group for lying about his identity and says that he's been hunting down mass divers that infiltrate low-level missions. Kyoya is impressed with Riku and the others' abilities, and before taking his leave, he says he hopes to call on their growing strength one day. This interaction pushes Riku to get stronger and seek out ways not only to improve his Gunpla, but the knowledge of the game as well. The experience also made Momo sign up for a full account and rent her own Gunpla, which is a Kapul. I will say it's nice that they gave her a completely different suit to Yuki and Riku. Momo is definitely the most underutilized and unimportant character in the show, but at least her mobile suit is kind of unique. McGee agrees to help Riku when he sees his passion for Gunpla and tells him of a Gunpla martial arts master named Tiger Wolf. The group goes to see Wolf, who is the leader of a force called Tora Boryu. Man, if I ever learn martial arts, I hope it's from a 7-foot-tall buff wolf man. At first, Tiger Wolf denies Riku and Yuki's request for training, but then is bullied into doing it by the girls, which is actually pretty funny. This results in the guys being put through a bunch of physical training, which they initially find to be pointless, but they realize that they aren't fully acclimated to their diver avatar and need to work on utilizing the benefits of their digital state. Wolf demonstrates that divers can exert insane amounts of strength once they know how, and that it will translate over to their Gunpla piloting skills.
They put this to the test when a diver from a rival force named Daniel shows up, and instead of Tiger Wolf fighting him directly, he sicks his two newest students on him. Daniel proves to be a tough opponent for Riku and Yuki, and only through teamwork can they even begin to damage his Tequila Gundam. Wolf gets in his own Gunpla and knocks a bunch of missiles out of the air with pure aura, and then finishes Daniel off with a big energy blast that he says is his special move. Riku, now knowing that the higher diver rank you obtain, the more cool shit you unlock, now has a set goal of obtaining his own special move. Furthermore, according to Tiger Wolf, special moves are unique to each diver and come from the heart and soul of their Gunpla, so there's no use imitating his big move. Riku will have to find his own answers as he grows, and the episode ends with Riku pulling out his 00 Gunpla to customize and improve it.
The next episode introduces the audience to a new major character yet again. As the group is trekking across the desert to a city called Parisia, they come across a ninja girl in a car. She calls them fools for trying to cross the desert on foot, but gives them a ride anyway. Low-rank divers are not able to call their Gunpla in this area, and battles between rival players are not permitted. That's because Parisia is where all the best builders come to show off their Gunpla, brag, network, and trade. Once she drops them off in town, Ayame the ninja disappears into the shadows, and we see that she's taking orders from a shadowy figure that wants her to keep tabs on Riku. Everyone in Parisia is excited because a well-known master builder named Shahryar is supposed to be unveiling his new Gunpla in town. Of course, two hucksters pretend to be the famous player and try to pass off their cheap goods as his authentic work. Man, what is it about GPN that makes it full of scammers? It's like the plot for the first 4 episodes. Are these guys like the equivalent of gold-selling bots in WoW or something? Ayame shows up and tells the frauds that if the Gunpla was built by a master, it should move like one too. This exposes their scam and makes them flee. Riku thanks her and invites her to their party, but Ayame is the cool loner stereotype girl and declines. She receives another call from her boss, who says the client they're working for is mad about her intervention, and then the two scam artists kidnap her and drag her off. Can't she just log out or something? It's pretty alarming. If an underage girl can be digitally kidnapped by two strange men inside your online video game, sounds like a lawsuit to me, or maybe just Roblox. Riku and his party decide to go after her, and they're loaned a Gunpla by a nice fox guy in town. Riku is incredibly impressed by the performance of the borrowed Ptolemaeus, and Yuki explains that any imperfection in a Gunpla impacts how it pilots. When the team confronts the frauds and start having trouble with their brake decal power boost because of course they're also cheaters, the fox guy reappears in his Gundam Cerevi, revealing that he is the real Shahryar and stops the two frauds without breaking a sweat.
This proves to Riku how important it is to put love into building your Gunpla, and also constantly improving your own skills. Oh yeah, and then Tiger Wolf shows up and he has a rivalry with Char, and they both invite Riku to join their own respective forces, and while it's a big honor to be invited to the guilds of two top players, Riku actually turns them down and explains that he wants to start his own force with all of his friends. Shahryar tells them if they want to start their own force, they need to have strong members, and says to track down the person who built the Kapul that Momo has been renting, as it's of quite high quality. The search for the Kapul builder is actually fairly easy, as they just ask Nanami, the shop worker, who tells them that it was actually made by her brother Koichi. The team goes to Koichi's apartment to ask him to join them, or at least give them some building tips, but he tells them that he's retired from Gunpla battle. They return again and again, until Koichi actually complains to his sister and she has to talk to them about boundaries. Nanami tells them that Koichi and his group of friends used to be really into Gunpla battle back when it used the actual plastic models and physical inputs. But when GBN became ultra popular, his friends moved on from the hobby and Koichi became depressed and reclusive. We get to take a look inside his head as Koichi has a nightmare about all of his friends quitting the model club and leaving him alone. Even after Riku and the group apologize to him and tell him that they heard he was a great builder from Shahryar, he still turns them down. But this ignites an old spark in Koichi. The praise from a world-renowned builder gives him an itch to log into GBN and at least have a look around. There he meets Sarah, who immediately can tell who he is. He's starstruck by seeing McGee, Tiger Wolf, and Shahryar all there, and is surprised to see that so many famous players know who Riku is. While Koichi logs into GBN, Nanami takes Riku and the others to the back of the shop and uncovers the old GDP machine. They watch recorded gameplay data of Koichi and his friends sparring, and then even go so far as to fix up all the old gunpla that Koichi stored away. Nanami drags her brother to the shop, and he overhears Riku talking about how he just wants to help Koichi love something the way that he used to. This makes Koichi decide to help them, and he tells them he'll join their force on one condition: they all build their own gunpla. So I actually think that this is the best episode in the entire show, as Koichi has the most relatable backstory in the entire Build series. There's a part where he asks himself, how long has it been since I was able to say that I loved something? And as someone who understands what it's like to go through depression at about the same age as this character when it happened, it just really hit me in the gut, you know? The character work and empathy on display is very well done for this episode, and the show unfortunately really does not hit those highs again. So if you're only going to watch one episode from Gundam Build Divers, for some reason, you just have it be episode 6. With their team assembled, Riku, Yuki, Momo, Sarah, and Koichi officially register their force, which Riku names the Build Divers. They explain how force battles between different teams and the ranking system works to Momo, and then decide that they should take on a 5v5 battle meant for beginners. The battle is scheduled a week out. No matchmaking in this billion-dollar online game, I guess. They realize a little too late that Sarah doesn't have a gunpla to use, which is something I'm surprised no one has asked her about, or will ever ask her about, but luckily Ayame happens to be in the lobby. Riku thanks her for her help in Parisia and asks if she would be interested in joining them as their final team member. Surprisingly, Ayame accepts, but only for the force battle, not as a full member of the guild, which is good enough for everyone involved. We get a gunpla building montage, something that this show desperately needs more of, as the actual gunpla aspect of Build Divers is way less important than in the previous shows. Hey, at least Momo does finally get a custom model called the Momo Kapul that even has a little mini Kapul that can eject out of it. When the time for the battle comes, the adversary that shows up is none other than Rommel, the little weasel guy that is rivals with Kyoya, who also happens to watch out of curiosity. Rommel is having his force's new recruits take on some early missions to get some training in, so the Build Divers fight is going to be a harder one than they expected. Also, Ayame has a SD Gundam based on, one of those, Journey to the West-esque, Chinese fiction SD Gundam shows, which I haven't seen, and while those shows aren't my jam, and I haven't even talked about them on the channel, it's cool to see them get some representation. The Build Divers' superior teamwork and coordination get the upper hand on Rommel's rookies. Kyoya is impressed with how far Riku has come in such a short amount of time, and even Ogre, watching as a spectator, admits that no one can stay a beginner forever. Riku gifts Sarah the flower necklace accessory that he got as a reward from the battle, saying it's a gift from all of them, and they take a picture to commemorate their first battle as a team. We then get an episode showing the audience that there's more to force activities than just team battles. The Build Divers take part in a Bear Guy Festival force event against an all-girl force called Team Archangel, and they drag Ayame along and force her to have fun because they don't respect boundaries. One of the members of the Archangels wants to contribute to her team so bad that she uses a brake decal, but this time it doesn't just power up her gunpla, as we see the glitches spread out across the server and cause chaos. Riku is able to defeat her, but offers his hand in friendship, as the rest of her team says she should have just trusted them. It's a very tropey, trust your friends / power of friendship episode, but it does show us that brake decals are messing with things in a really bad way, and it provides a bit of character development for Ayame, who we see taking Riku's words about friendship to heart. Riku also finally gains a bit of motivation that isn't just wanting to become stronger. He says he loves GBN so much that he wants to protect it from the source of the brake decals, and now wants to solve the mystery of why they would do so. He becomes so invested in protecting GBN that we see him and Yuki obsessing about it at school. Team Build Divers undertake a monthly force battle with randomized parameters. They're required to defend a space shuttle containing the Gundam Alex as it blasts off, and wouldn't you know it, the force on the attacking side is none other than Hyaki, the battle-crazed maniacs led by Ogre. Doji, the fat bully from early in the series, really wants to prove himself as a member of Hyaki, and he's willing to utilize a brake decal to do it. Doji is actually the first member of the clan to make it to Riku, but the main character of the show has unsurprisingly improved so much that he beats Doji's ass until Ogre shows up and butts in. Ogre fights Riku on pretty even ground and demands that he use his Trans Am, but Riku refuses as he wants to win with his own strength. Ogre turns on his Trans Am anyway and proceeds to thrash Riku around for a bit, and just when Riku is about to get destroyed, Doji steps in and activates his brake decal, wanting to contribute to the win. But his brake decal not only powers up his mobile suit, but it also starts causing glitches in the code of GBN itself. Ayame is seen speeding towards the area to help her team, but she gets a call from her boss, who tells her that the owner of the brake decal is an important client and not to interfere. While Ayame looks like she wants to go help Riku, she lets go of the controls and stays out of it, demonstrating that even though she's hanging out with the Build Divers, she still has divided loyalties. It takes Ogre and Riku teaming up to hit Doji with a combined attack, which is always fun. To give Build Divers credit, anytime the show does one of these team attacks, it's fun to watch and really well animated. Riku and Ogre take down the Raging Gunpla, which was no longer even listening to Doji, and as a result of the cheating, Ogre withdraws Hyaki from the force battle, handing Riku the win. But it's not a win out of pity. Ogre can see how much Riku has grown, and hopes to battle with him again one day soon. The battle in this episode is pretty fun, and I do think that this interaction with Ogre is a good show of Riku's growth and skill. Also, after the credits, we get a scene showing Rommel's team getting absolutely demolished by a powerful mass diver. With the cheaters getting to the point where they can take on pros who literally seem to live inside this VR game and the glitches starting to actually affect the code, Kyoya contacts an old friend. The champ has known this guy since the days of alpha testing GBN, and he currently holds the title of Game Master within the game's administration. The GM tells Kyoya that the admins have been studying the data of the mass divers, but have found that there's nothing abnormal about it. The only theory they can come up with is that the brake decals might actually be hacking directly into GBN's source code. Kyoya comes up with a plan to fight back against the plague of cheaters, calling together a coalition of the game's top players to defeat the mass divers. Surprisingly, Riku and the rest of the Build Divers are invited, and they learn it's because both Kyoya and Ogre suggested it. Ogre isn't even here, dude. Hyaki refused to come because Doji just cheated in that fight. Kyoya has an informant buy a brake decal, and they use it to track down where the mastermind is hiding, which all happens really fast. He's apparently hiding out on a server meant for beginner players, which most of the coalition are too high level to log into. So this is where the relatively new Build Divers come in handy, being able to log into that beginner server to infiltrate, right? Wrong! Even though it's a great opportunity to give our main characters the spotlight, Kyoya just has the GM grant them permission to enter their server, so why even bring that up? It seems like a missed opportunity to me. The Build Divers are on the assault team, along with a bunch of pros, to directly attack the Mastermind's hideout. When the coalition of volunteers arrives, they're immediately attacked by waves of mass divers that have been recruited from outside the game, which I think is a really funny thought. Like, imagine being a gruff mercenary guy and someone hires you to grief in an MMO. Sarah shows Riku a point on the map and tells him to go there using her super intuition. Kyoya trusts his judgment and lets him go, and the 00 heads right to the Mastermind's hiding spot. But much to Riku's shock, someone familiar is standing in the way: Ayame. Yes, Ayame's loyalties have finally been put to the ultimate test, and she is forced by her employer to fight her own friend. Of course, they aren't just going to fight it out without Ayame spilling her whole backstory to Riku. She explains that when she first joined GBN, she was in an all-SD Gundam force called Chat Noir. The Force all get along and end up climbing up to the top 50 in the Force rankings, but are eventually torn apart when some of the members want to use different types of Gunpla. Eventually, the old leader of the clan begins to use real types and sells their clan Gunpla to a hooded mercenary. So now Ayame works for the Mass Diver Mastermind as a way to make the money to buy back that clan Gunpla, as it's the only thing that she can use to remember her old friends. Riku explains to her that her actions are hurting GBN, the place where she made all of those memories, and of course we have to hit all the friendship tropes on the head here, and he tells her that she'll always have a place in the Build Divers. When a mass diver shows up to attack Riku, it's Ayame who defends him, realizing what side she really wants to be on. Riku and Sarah finally arrive in the control center to confront the hooded man. He tells Riku his plan isn't just to sell break decals for money, but to destroy GBN as a whole, mostly because he really hates the new version of Gunpla Battle. We get the reveal that the mastermind is using a guest diver avatar, which means he's a little evil angry Haro, and then he manages to run away and launch a gigantic Big Zam that breaks the base apart. The Big Zam begins to spread the glitches across the code of GBN, and even his loyal mass divers find that their Gunpla are completely controlled by the break decal. Riku meets back up with Kyoya and the other pro divers, and the group all go to fight off the Big Zam together. The battle against the huge machine is hard fought, as most of their weapons seem to have no effect. Riku is more and more determined to protect GBN, even through the desperate struggle, and Sarah says that his 00 wants to release its true power. Riku initiates Transam for the first time under his own power, and is able to outspeed the Big Zam in attack, but his swords break for the effort. Sarah tells Riku the 00 wants to continue fighting despite the damage. The 00 diver emits these big wings of energy that spread around the battlefield and disable all of the break decals. The GM tells Kyoya that this is healing all of the bugs throughout GBN's code, and with one final special team attack, everyone is able to put the Big Zam down for good. Along with the huge machine, the Mastermind's break decal dreams are also crushed. While everyone celebrates saving GBN, Riku realizes that Ayame has left the Force. He begins to brainstorm ways to welcome her back to the game, and on his way to log out he's met by someone working for the Mastermind. He's told to meet the guy in real life at a creepy warehouse, and to come alone while bringing his Gunpla. Okay kids, if a strange man you meet in an MMO asks you to secretly come to a tetanus-filled spooky warehouse, you should tell the police. Luckily, all the guy wants is a duel in the old GDP system as he reveals himself as Shiba Tsukasa, the mastermind behind the break decals. Shiba still has Ayame's clan Gunpla and offers it up as a prize for the duel. Riku fights him but gets overpowered for a while as Shiba goes on about how GBN is a world of frauds. Man, he really took a new update to Gunpla Battle personally. But Shiba makes the mistake of telling Riku that he doesn't really love Gunpla, which is an insult our main character will not take sitting down. Riku gets a call from Sarah on his communicator thingy and she cheers him on. Riku uses his Transam mode while thinking of all the friends he's made and fights Shiba to a draw. He says he can tell that Shiba really loves Gunpla Battle, but he needs to stop hurting others. When the rest of Riku's friends finally figure out where he is, they arrive to find Riku clutching his broken 00 diver, but smiling because he won Ayame's Gunpla back. Koichi runs after Shiba, revealing that they were old friends who used to play GDP together. Inside GBN, Ayame goes to her old force nest and meets her friends Cozy and Sue, finding out that the clan Gunpla has been returned, and in her heart, she knows it was Riku who won it back for her. Riku decides to make a new Gunpla out of the wrecked 00 diver's parts, and the crew even gets to meet Ayame's player Aya when she comes to visit in real life. She thanks them all for everything they've done, and tells them she wants to officially be part of the Build Divers, and the team is solidified for the rest of the series. We then basically get a clip show episode where Riku goes around to talk to all the important characters and get inspiration for his new Gunpla. He then gets this vision that looks like his 00 diver is going to heaven, and that actually did make me laugh, and it seems to give him an idea for his new build. I do think that the middle part of this show drags a lot, and while I do enjoy the final arc that happens within the last 5 or so episodes, I think they should have jumped right into it after dealing with the break decal arc. The middle of the show slows down to a crawl, where the Build Divers continue to grow and obtain items within the game, along with a few episodes that are essentially filler. Anyway, Riku brings Sarah to the hangar to show her his new Gunpla, the 00 Sky, and then everyone shows up to gawk at the cool robot. Now, Build Fighters moves on to a section of the show that I think is its biggest mistake. The middle of the series that bridges the two major story arcs at the beginning and end is, overall, pretty damn boring. If it weren't for one or two moments that begin to set up the finale arc of the series, the next 5 episodes would be pretty much filler. It's a pretty big bummer, cause the beginning of the show is tropey but serviceable, and the end is actually kinda good,
but the middle is seriously hard to get through, and they really should have just moved on to the final arc after episode 14. We get an episode where the Build Divers take on a player-created mission called the Lotus Challenge. At least it shows off how their teamwork and planning ability has evolved as they become the first force to finish the challenge, even before Kyoya's Force Avalon. This makes the team flush with cash, and after Sarah buys a pet because the show needed another mascot, they all decide that they should buy a Force Nest. Different from a neat nest or a neckbeard nest, it's kind of a fun concept for them to go look for player housing. I do wish the show dug a little deeper into the MMO or game-like elements more often. They settle on this huge, expensive tropical island, but the current owner decides to grant the purchase rights to the team that wins an exhibition match. The team on the other side just so happens to be Ayame's old friends Chat Noir. Kind of. Her friends Cozy and Sue show up, but they're just watching, and we learn that a young member of Chat Noir named Hiro restarted the Force and is the current leader. It does seem like a weird touch to frame this episode like an Ayame loyalty conflict, but then reveal that she's not actually fighting her old friends. And of course, the Build Divers win the Force Nest and form an alliance with Chat Noir Neo.
There is one episode that gives a fair amount of development to Yuki, as he begins to feel like second fiddle to Riku. Yuki has this interesting position as the one who got Riku into GBN in the first place, but now he feels like his friend has completely surpassed him. Yuki asks McGee for advice, who suggests he undertake a specific mission that has helped a lot of big-time divers in the past. Through a set of accidental circumstances, Yuki accidentally accepts the mission with Sarah, and also Doji of Hyaki, who's looking to become stronger after the debacle with the brake decal.
The mission takes them through a set of challenges that appear to have nothing to do with piloting mechs. However, it does help them bond and overcome their differences, and when Sarah slips on ice, Doji ends up helping. He and Yuki begin to talk about battle strategies, and he actually apologizes to Yuki for being such a jerk, so I guess he isn't such a bad guy after all. In the final leg of the mission, the squad has to face mirror versions of their Gunpla. However, Sarah doesn't use a Gunpla, so she stands face to face with a bizarro version of herself, and when they touch, it causes a huge server error that makes both of the mirror Gunpla combine. After the battle, a gold bird approaches the trio before flying away, and Sarah seems to recognize it somehow. Doji actually apologizes to the Build Divers for being a huge jerk, and Yuki begins to build a new Gunpla to show off his improved skills that is based on a Jeggin, so that's kinda rad as hell. Riku then catches the eye of Tiger Wolf, but not as a student this time, as a rival. He invites Riku to an event called the Ryakusai, essentially a tournament of 1v1 battles so that he can test his former apprentice's strength. I do like that the show throws you for a loop here and has Riku lose to Tiger Wolf in the end. He does learn a thing or two about piloting his new Gunpla and unlocking his Infinity Sword special move, but Wolf was really not fucking around and wins their fight and then celebrates publicly about it. It is kind of funny.
The Build Divers get Nami to join in when GBN puts on an all-girl race event to draw more female players into the game, and the ultimate prize is that the winner gets to be a GBN image girl, basically a promotional model for the game. Great, so the grand prize is a job that you get to do for free. What a future. Yeah, also, at one point, they have to build some Gunpla models as fast as possible and upload a picture to Gunstagram, which... that just sounds rude.
In the end, they all actually get disqualified from the event for using a vehicle to get to the end because of a huge glitch. But the sponsor, who is a CEO for a fashion company, is like, nah, they all win, and we all know who has the power in that sort of situation, so they all win. Nami also becomes a permanent member of the Build Divers, and just ends up being moral support. That's a big problem that I have with Build Divers. Riku is pretty much the only important person on the team. I mean, there is only one episode where Momo does anything important, and it's when she wins a battle in a filler episode. Finally, the show moves on into its final arc, as the Build Divers and other high-ranking forces are prepping for a huge upcoming event known as the Raid Battle. Kyoya receives a call from his Game Master friend. He's told that the admins are looking into all the strange glitches that have been happening in the game's code, and that could be an even bigger problem than the brake decals. While they don't have much of a lead to go on, they've decided to have GM bots follow the participants of the all-girl race. When one of these machines shows up and scans the build divers, it sees that Sarah has no player ID and attacks her. It also scans all of the female characters' breast size, so that's interesting information for this company to have. The team is unable to summon their Gunpla due to area restrictions, but when the machine reaches out for Sarah, she screams and causes a bunch of disruptions across GBN. The weird golden bird that's been seen watching Sarah and the build divers throughout a few episodes approaches and blows the guard machine away. The bird greets them and says that it is the developer of GBN's engine, Miss Tori. She then teleports them to a personal space within the game and tells them the truth of who Sarah really is. It was pretty obvious early on that Sarah wasn't a normal player, and it's revealed here that she's actually an AI construct born within the world of GBN because of a glitch in the engine's code. She is literally made up of leftover junk data that is created when players scan their Gunpla. Tori also explains that the wings of light that Riku was able to control during the final battle with the mass divers was Sarah's full power unleashed, but as she grows, the strain on GBN's code is getting harder and harder until it will eventually stop functioning. So the administration has decided to essentially create a patch that will kill Sarah to stop that from happening. Also, Miss Tori isn't a part of the game's admin team, I guess. She's treated like the genius sole developer behind GBN that is totally separate from how it's run, which is a little strange. Tori doesn't want Sarah to be deleted because she rightfully believes that Sarah is a sentient being with a right to live. And I could make a snarky anti-AI remark, but Sarah's a true AI and not an LLM, so this would just be straight up murder, really. Sarah is really depressed while the build divers try to decide what to do and decides to run away. Sarah feels as though she has lied to her friends by not telling them her situation, and she also feels like she'll just bring them trouble if she stays. So she takes off, even leaving her pet Molly to face her inevitable death alone. Pretty heavy, huh? Yeah, that's why I actually do enjoy the final arc of the show. It just sucks that you need to get through the lowest stakes middle of a show possible to get here. The build divers are told by Tori that the only solution she could come up with is transferring Sarah's data to an external hard disk, but she doesn't really know if it will work. However, before they can even begin to put a plan into motion, the GMs make a system-wide announcement about Sarah being something called an L-Diver, that she is on the run and must be stopped. This tiny child is armed and dangerous. Quick, someone kill her. The team has a hard time concentrating on anything with Sarah absent, and we see them go about their own ways of searching for her. Koichi thinks about Tori's words about Sarah being leftover data from Scan Gunpla and decides to go and talk to Tsukasa. He's able to convince the mastermind behind the brake decals to help him. I guess he softened a bit since the duel with Riku, and they plan on using the same technology as a brake decal to transfer Sarah into a Gunpla model in real life. It's a pretty strange plan, but I guess it's better than her being on a disk drive messing with my Skyrim mod list or something. Champion Kyoya follows a guard machine until it finds Sarah, but he tells her that he just wants to talk. Kyoya has a more complicated view on matters, seeing Sarah as a friend but also wanting to protect GBN. He also has this compulsion to let Sarah make the choice for herself, as he keeps asking her what it is she wants to do. I took it as him proving to himself that she was really sentient and could have wants and needs and make decisions. Meanwhile, Riku is out searching for Sarah on his own and is confronted by Ogre. Ogre is pissed off that Riku withdrew from a scheduled tournament match where they would have clashed. But he also says that Sarah is pretty much the same thing as a brake decal and Riku's been cheating the entire time. Riku rebukes this, but Ogre just tells him to prove it by winning with his own power. It takes Ogre insulting Riku's Gunpla to get him all riled up, and when using Transam Infinity, he's able to fight more on par with his rival. Their fight goes on until the 00 Sky is being ripped apart, and while Ogre is impressed, he says it just isn't enough to beat him. They only stop fighting when a system-wide announcement is made showing that Kyoya has custody of Sarah at Avalon's Force Nest. While the team is wary of using the brake decal technology, they trust Koichi, who tells them that the new version is called a build decal. Even with Miss Tori's help, they only have about a 5% chance of success. Riku goes to talk to Kyoya at Avalon's Force Nest to tell him about the plan, but Kyoya just tells him that he can't let the fate of GBN ride on a 5% chance. You know, the state of an online game is way more important than actually murdering someone, but I guess it's okay because Sarah has told Kyoya she wants to be deleted so everyone can be happy. Hey, GBN is like the most popular thing since sliced bread, right? So what are the chances that someone who works for the Japanese government is playing and sees an announcement from the GMs that they created artificial life? There should have definitely been an arc where Riku has to dodge government hitmen trying to steal his login info. I know I should move on from this point because it's a show for kids, but I find it super weird that a character like Kyoya, who is shown to be just a good dude in general, is totally willing to murder a little girl to save an online video game. It blows my mind that this is simultaneously a plot point and was kept on the back burner until the very end of the show. Anyway, Kyoya tells Riku that Sarah is in the possession of the coalition of volunteers, not the admins. We also learn that the admins' deletion program will be complete on the day of the raid battle, so everyone looks to that day to initiate their plan. As Riku leaves, he yells out to Sarah that they have a plan and they will save her, which she hears, and it begins to give her doubts about whether she actually wants to be erased or not. The Build Divers regroup at their Force Nest and send out a call to help to all of their allies. Chat Noir arrives along with McGee, who says that his force is full of people who do as they please. He tells them that most of the other high-ranking forces were told to join the Coalition and admins. Tiger Wolf arrives, saying he doesn't like how the Coalition is doing things, so he left his own force and is now working as a freelancer. Koichi says the admins will most likely deploy the patch during the raid battle for some reason. It seems like the worst time to deploy a patch for an online game to me, during a huge upcoming yearly event where everyone's going to be logged in. Riku contacts Kyoya, and the two decide that they shall settle everything through gunpla battle. The GM tries to object, but is reminded that it's the Coalition who has custody of Sarah, and not the administration, because in GBN, the players can just do whatever they want, pretty much, and the admins can't do much to stop them. There's even a point where the GM tries to, go and talk to Sarah to delete her, and he gets locked out of doing it by Kyoya, because Kyoya says that builders have admin rights in their own force nests, which is kind of crazy that that a GM gets locked out of actions in an online game just because they're in player housing. The Build Divers cover their approach to Avalon's castle by flying in shuttles. Hero's shuttle is shot down, and there are rumors that the 00 Sky was on board, but it's really just a cover so that Riku can sneak in. Momo also sneaks in via the sewers, but she comes face to face with one of the members of Avalon on guard duty, and that's basically where she stays for the rest of the battle, because again, Momo is very unimportant. Meanwhile, Shahryar shows up in an apparent heel turn to fight Tiger Wolf. For a second I thought they might make him have an actual difference of opinion, but it's really a fake out, and he just wants to fight his old rival. And then they have McGee face off against Rommel and treat it like some sort of big deal when these two have said maybe 3 sentences to each other in the entire show, if that. Rommel has always been Kyoya's rival, but they couldn't have him fight since they're on the same side. It kind of feels slapdash. When Tiger Wolf and Shahryar finish their fight, he admits he only wanted to fight his rival, and he then shares information on the other team's whereabouts. But Kyoya shows up before they can go and help Riku, and attacks them with his huge sword. Riku finally approaches Avalon's castle, but he sees a floating island crash down and finds the damaged gunpla of Char and Tiger Wolf. I guess Kyoya just blew up the whole fucking island. Riku faces off against Kyoya, the champ of GBN, and person that Riku has admired since he began playing. Riku uses Trans Am while Kyoya uses his FX Burst, and both gunpla begin their high-speed battle in the skies over Avalon's castle. Riku puts up a good effort against Kyoya, but gets blasted by his funnels and appears to be defeated, but just as the champ goes to strike the ending blow, Ogre falls out of the sky and tells Riku to just watch him tear shit up. It's a pretty hype moment to this show's credit. Hyaki has arrived on the scene of the final battle just because they feel like it, of course. Riku and Ogre both attack Kyoya while using Trans Am, and are both damaged in the process. Kyoya sees that both of them keep pushing their gunpla to the breaking point and asks Riku why he still wants to fight. Of course, the answer is because Riku loves GBN and he's made precious memories with his friends, especially Sarah. The power of friendship powers everyone up once again. Riku and Ogre do a crazy team attack on Kyoya, and in the midst of it we see that Sarah's wish was to be with everyone and continue making memories. The team attack breaks through Kyoya's defenses and it destroys him, and then Riku falls through the sky and is damaged double O, which dissolves as he embraces his friend. Lucky for both of them, Molly can turn into a big pillow and save them from being smushed. The battle ends with the GM announcing that the Build Divers have won, and they're going through with the plan to transfer Sarah out of GBN. Team Build Divers head back to the lobby, but they see the glitches from the server load have spread out across the whole game, and have caused the raid battle boss to appear in a powered-up state. Everyone, from the Build Divers to the Coalition to even Tsukasa, show up to help defeat the super bosses in a battle that feels pretty superfluous. I mean, we already had the big emotional battle last episode, so this just feels kind of tacked on. The admins even show up and have their update patch in the form of a weapon that damages the big bosses. And finally, it's time to transfer Sarah, and she makes her way through cyberspace to have her data stored in a gunpla. Sarah meets everyone in her new body, which I find a little creepy, to be honest. Like, imagine being one of Riku's parents, and now he has this little homunculus that he spawned out of an MMO. It just raises a lot of questions. They explain that they made her body with tech from the old GP dual setup and brake decal tech, and she essentially becomes a mascot for the Gunpla store. Apparently the Build Divers pass her around like Flat Stanley in real life, or the classroom hamster or something. In my 4th grade class, Flat Stanley got ripped in half. Or was that the hamster? Anyway, they all go and log into GBN together and fly off to have more adventures, and that's how the story of Gundam Build Divers comes to an end. So, yeah, while I think that Gundam Build Divers does have a couple of interesting ideas and moments, overall it's just way too bland to recommend. The show refuses to look at the Gunpla and MMO aspects in any real depth, which is sort of the whole point of the Build side series. The story it does provide is mostly been here, done that, power of friendship stuff with a weird AI layer on top of it. And while the ending arc has some good moments and fun fights, it takes way too long to get there after an incredibly dull middle and just a passable intro. Most of the main characters are pretty boring, and half of them don't have any sort of spotlight episode to make them any more interesting. Unfortunately, Riku is very vanilla for a main character, and may as well be made out of wood. Hopefully Build Divers Re-Rise is a better time, but next in the Gundam Retrospective, we'll be taking a look at Gundam Narrative, everyone's favorite sequel to Gundam Unicorn. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all again very soon. Hey there everybody, and welcome to today's end card. Let me go ahead and start off, as always, by thanking my channel members, aka Batosai, Azure Windress, Brian Sanchez, Chris Goodnow, D. Gonzalez, Daniel Johnson, Dane O'Connor, Good Apollo, Grim07, Harmonious, Hidden Insanity, Jessica Solberg, Jay Lamb, Joe Castellanos, Joe Cavazos, Johnny G, Canto 20, MB, McLean Nugent, Michael Lewis, Rother the Paladin, Sin Ryuki, The Crawl, Video Gamer 75, Zach Jones, and Zappa the Ace. Thank you all so much for being channel members. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the Code Geass R2 video as well. I know it took a while. Mostly that was because I got pretty sick. And I used that time where I was sick and I couldn't do any voiceover, because when I say I got sick, I didn't feel terrible, but I lost my voice. So that kind of makes it so I can't do a lot of the work that goes into these videos. So what I did in my time off essentially was just do a bunch of script writing and watching. So that's why this video is coming out so quickly after the R2 video is basically done, besides some voiceover. But besides that, coming up next week, it should be, is Gundam Narrative, which I thought I would hate, but I don't think it's actually that bad. I'm interested to write down my actual thoughts on it and put those out there, because I've never actually talked to anyone who's seen Gundam Narrative, and I've never heard anything about it till I watched it. So I know that people don't love it, but besides that, I'm pretty uninitiated on
how people feel about it. So that will be interesting. And then, of course, after that, we have Zoid's Fusers. You guys should look out for the Zoid's Fusers video. I think it might be the most sarcastic I've ever been when writing a script in voiceover, because, spoiler alert, Zoid's Fusers is not good. It is like, it's, if I wasn't watching that show for a video, I would not have finished it, because there's just nothing to it. like really. So that will be an interesting one. What do we have after that? Oh, we have to do Re-Rise. That's right. Re-Rise is actually pretty good. I'm just doing some mini reviews, I guess, for this end card. But yeah, so I did do a post the other day asking, you know, just like, not even a poll, just like, what do you want to see? And I've got a lot of suggestions. So what I'm going to do over the summer, I've got like a bunch of videos queued up, and I'm going to try to do weekly videos for a long time. Mostly by like putting more movies in there as well as shows. I have some longer shows that I want to watch over time, so that like I can integrate those with the weekly videos that I want to have coming up. But if you guys want like a little sneak preview of what could be coming, I know a lot of people have wanted me to continue Macross, so I'm definitely going to continue Macross over the summer. I'm not sure which, probably just whichever series is next. I don't know if I'll look at Macross 2, the movie or whatever, because it's non-canon and was made by a different company. Maybe for fun, I'll look at that at some point. And I've got a bunch of suggestions for like Megazone 23, which I want to watch anyway. And then just like actually a couple of non-mecha stuff too, which I guess I would like to throw in at some point. I've had a couple people ask me to do Yu Yu Hakusho, which I am not opposed to doing, because Hakusho is one of my favorite anime of all time. It's in the top 3, so I totally wouldn't mind doing a video on that, though that would probably have to be multiple. I'm saying if I do Yu Yu Hakusho, it's probably going to be 4 videos long, because that's a 100+ episode show, and the arcs are pretty uniformly divided, and there's a lot to say about each one of them. So anyway, this is dragging on. I just want to give you guys a sneak preview of what's coming up. I know it's a 5-minute end card, but well, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.